All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll introduce Tina. Welcome to the teen manga session. Is it manga? Are you going to say manga?
Manga.
Manga. My kids go back and forth. Everyone does, you know. Okay, we're in the teen manga section, and Tina Bartholomew.
Yeah. Bartholomew. Good.
Bartholomew. I've known you for so many years, and sometimes I get it right. Tina Bartholomew is a community engagement senior librarian at the county library, right? Salt Lake County Library. She has 15 years of experience as the Youth Services Public Librarian, and her current role is school liaison. She's been there for 4 years. She has 2 master's degrees in library science and educational psychology with an emphasis in instructional design. She has never had a teaching certificate because she's always been in the public library world, but she does love the schools and loves supporting us and working with us. And she does this presentation on teen manga every other year. And so it should be fantastic. I'm really excited because my students are just like in an uproar that I don't have everything. They want more and more. So I'm going to turn the time over to Tina. The rest of you, welcome. Please just be considerate. Keep your mics off unless you are talking. Keep questions in the chat if you could, or if you want to kind of just raise a hand or something if you want to say something. You can have your video on so that we're kind of all in a room together, but that's up to you. So I'll turn the time over to Tina.
Thanks, Mariah. Mariah and I had a great opportunity to work together to create a collaboration workshop last summer. That was great. We're going to reprise that this year. So that's something I'm looking forward to. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen real quickly. While I am doing that, just for your information, there are 2 PDFs attached to the sketch for this event, and it has my slides and a book list. We don't have time today for me to do blurbs for these books, so we are going to talk about the important things about the tips that are going to help us weed and do collection development. So there's that. I cannot see the chat, so I have a colleague of mine monitoring. So Nissa is going to be sharing your questions with me. If you put those in the chat, feel free to, we'll do if we have time, we'll do a Q&A at the end, but we'll also take questions in between. So just go ahead and put those in. Like Mariah said, I am a public librarian, specifically Youth Services Senior Librarian, and I am not I grew up with manga person. I did not discover manga until I had been a librarian for 5 years already. I was working at the Harriman Library in the southern part of Salt Lake County, and we had a new librarian who was going to be with us for just a couple of years. She was looking forward to retirement. And she was a teen librarian before there were teen librarians. And I was complaining one day while I was working at the reference desk, I had nothing to read. And so she's like, oh, you really like fantasy, don't you? Maybe you might like Fruits Basket. And we had that in our collection at the library. And I read Fruits Basket, and I spent the next 2 years reading every single teen manga that my library collection had. And it was about 100 to 200 manga every month. And I didn't like everything. So sometimes I would try volume 1, volume 2, and then I wouldn't finish the series. But within just a couple of years, people were asking me for manga recommendations. And I did my first presentation on manga to an audience of librarians in 2013. One of the things I do want to say about our slides today before we get started here is I am using covers of the manga on my slides, and I'm using those under a fair use evaluation. So if you want to share these slides later with someone, make sure that you are making your own evaluation of copyright when you're using those images. So let's get started. The big 3. So up until just 2 or 3 years ago, these were the 3 series that absolutely dominated the manga market in the United States. These are battle manga, which is the most popular genre in the manga format. And I do have grade levels here and whether the series is complete or ongoing for almost all of the titles that you're going to see here. So Bleach is a supernatural battle manga. It is for grades 7 to 12. And let me tell you, battles absolutely dominate this story. The final battle happened for 2 years. So, you know, the manga are coming out every 2 months. And for 2 years, it was all this one last big battle. Oh my gosh. One Piece is still ongoing. And that one's kind of more of a comedy fantasy battle manga. And then Naruto was just completed in 2015. And that one is a ninja battle manga. You don't have to have all 3 of these series on your school library shelves, but you probably want to have at least one of them. But these are huge series. I mean, One Piece is at 96 volumes and it's continuing. And so you might not have space for things that are this large. So what I want to do is give you some ideas on ways that you could still incorporate this in your collection if you don't have room for all of it. For one other tip for Bleach and Naruto, and even for One Piece, I have received information that some school librarians aren't able to find replacement copies for missing volumes. Start looking for the 3-in-1 volumes for these. They are being reprinted, usually in the omnibus. So if you're missing a specific issue and you're going to keep this series on your shelf, start looking for those formats. So here is where your librarian skills are going to come into play. If you have one of these big series and you just can't fit it on your shelves anymore, you have some choices. Number one, if you're going to delete the whole series, which 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said, no, don't do it. You can't replace this. But I walked into Barnes & Noble just a couple of months ago and I went to their manga shelves and they have an entire aisle of just brand new manga and those omnibus volume reprints that I was talking about. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so maybe if some of these old classics go out of print, it's not such a big deal anymore. There's so much more to pick from. And so now if someone were to ask me, can I get rid of one of these big, huge series? I might say yes. Yeah. Whereas before I would have said absolutely no. But now I think you've got more choices and it's now an option. So if you want to just carry part of one of these large series, you're going to have to do some pop culture research. So this means research on the internet that you're really going to have to evaluate your sources. These aren't going to be professional people that are telling you about these things. But if you do a browser search for arcs, so this is the One Piece arc search that I did, and this is the most authoritative response that I saw, you'll find that these big, long series have story arcs in them. Most of these series have a break point where they have a time gap in the storyline. For One Piece, that time gap happens in volume 61. So volume 1 through 61 are all part of the original One Piece storyline. And then right in the middle of volume 61, there's a break. And you'll even see the break on the covers. The covers start saying One Piece, the New World. And so that is kind of a break point if you want to keep just the beginning part of the series or just the part that's growing now on your shelves. Maybe knowing what's in your public library could help you make that decision. But volume 61 is the break point for One Piece. Naruto, which ended in 2015, also has a break point. I don't remember which volume it is. So there's your homework. If you are evaluating Naruto on your shelves, you're going to go in, you're going to do a pop culture research search on Naruto arcs. I think it might be like volume 28 or so that it has a similar break point. Naruto, of course, ended in 2015, but it has a new series based on the children of the characters from the original series, which is where Boruto comes in. I was so excited when I read volume 1 of Boruto because it reminded me of that first time that I read volume 1 of Naruto. By the time you get to volume 72 of Naruto, you can see this main character. He's an adult. There's been this huge political worldview. And when you go to Boruto, you get back to that one-on-one, one boy is going to learn the skills to, you know, exist in his world. And so that was really exciting for me. That's a good note for junior high libraries, especially because Naruto, like I said, he's grown up. Now we're getting back to that relatable one-on-one character with Boruto. If you are going to have the Naruto and Boruto series on your shelves, you should have this one standalone volume. It's called Naruto, the Seventh Hokage and the Scarlet Spring. It is a transition volume of what happens between the 8-year time period between those two series. So I recommend you have that one volume there. Also, back to Bleach for just a moment. I have heard that they're doing additional light novel volumes, and that if you're a Bleach fan, you're absolutely going to love it. It's filled with huge battles that last for 4 or 5 chapters, but that would be an additional purchase. Another classic in the series for battle manga is Dragon Ball. When Dragon Ball was released in Japan, it was 42 complete volumes, and when it came to the US in the 1990s, they split the series. So Dragon Ball is volumes 1 through 16, and Dragon Ball Z is volumes 17 to 42, but they've been renumbered. So in the US, Dragon Ball Z is volumes 1 through 26, and there was kind of a revival of the Dragon Ball series. It started in 2014 with Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super jumps right in. You already have a full cast of characters. So I wouldn't recommend having just Dragon Ball Super by itself, but you may not want to buy the entire Dragon Ball Z 1 through 26 either. So your kind of your catch up here is the reprints that were done in full color. So these full color reprints of Dragon Ball are only specific arcs. There's 2 volumes in the first Dragon Ball full color series, and there's 5 volumes in the Dragon Ball full color Frieza arc. So if I were opening a brand new school library today, what I would do is I would get the 7 Dragon Ball full color books, and then I would start with the Dragon Ball Super. I would consider the full color ones a must-have purchase, and the Dragon Ball Super, if I've got fans in my school, I would start doing that. And the Dragon Ball full color arcs, both of those arcs come from the Dragon Ball Z. If you do have the original Dragon Ball series on your shelf, just be aware the character starts out like a 4-year-old boy who's growing up in the wild. He's got a long monkey tail, and you know he's got a tail because he's not wearing any clothes. So it's kind of like seeing a potty training child running around your house. There's nothing inappropriate about it, but if you have parents who make a lot of complaints, you might not want to have that on that shelf. It does have full nudity in big outline. The current battle manga. So if I was opening a brand new school library, I might not put in Naruto, I might not put in Bleach unless I got a great budget. You must have, the must-have battle manga right now is My Hero Academia. They're up to 26 volumes. It's an ongoing series. You really have to have that one. And I just got an email from Viz Manga talking about the tie-in series for My Hero Academy. They've got a brand new one starting called Team Up Missions. And the description's really intriguing. I think that the kids are really gonna love it. Some of the other tie-in for this franchise, there's My Hero Academia Vigilante. That one is more, it's got a college student. So I would consider that an additional purchase. Only if I had money on my hand would I add that series. And there's also some comedy tie-ins, My Hero Academia Smash, or My Hero Academia Briefs. You can look those up for yourself. I would consider those additional purchases also. If you're looking for read-alikes for My Hero Academia, the other big battle manga series that are happening right now, Black Clover is a fantasy series. So this one's going, My Hero Academia is superheroes. Black Clover is a fantasy with swords. Demon Slayer is also kind of a historical fantasy with swords. And World Trigger, they actually, Japan has a thing about guns. They like swords much, much more than guns. But by creating virtual reality versions of themselves, they're able to have this gun series that's rather than killing people, you just explode into prisms like you would in a video game. So those are, if you've got My Hero Academia, consider adding one of these other 3 battle manga series. They will fly off your shelves. Okay. Sports, the sports genre. So the next big genre for manga is sports. The big series right now is Haiku. It's a volleyball sports manga. When you're talking about sports manga, you want to have at least 1 series in your library, maybe 2 if you have room. And it doesn't matter what the sport is. If you have a manga reader in your school, they read every manga you have. They just do. There's a feel to manga that American comics and traditional American graphic novels don't have. And so if you have a manga reader, they're probably reading everything you have. Don't worry about what the sport is on the sports manga. Look for reviews and stars when you're making your choice as to which sports manga you're going to cover. Because like I said, it doesn't matter what the sport is. My favorite manga is called iShield 21. It's an older series. It's about football. I've never seen a football game in my life, but I love that manga. So don't worry about what the sport is, focus more on quality. 2 other series that I really recommend right now is Dr. Stone. Dr. Stone is a kind of a futuristic, so we're talking science fiction manga. Everyone in the world gets turned to stone, and this one uber scientist young boy in high school gets freed. And he starts freeing other people. There's fighting, there's science. They do a lot of like fantasy science experiments. So that one's really great. And then this is an older series, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. This is the #1 checked out manga in my library system. I would consider this a must-have in your middle school and maybe even your high school library. The Twilight Princess series of Legend of Zelda. When you are looking at recommendations for building your manga collection, professional review sources are starting to become available, but they're not very widespread yet. So your best thing to do is to ask for recommendations from your students and look for best of lists on the internet. So, you know, best of shonen, best of shoujo, those types of searches. These are some other completed series. The first one here is, that's supposed to be unit, Mobile Unit Gundam. So Gundam means giant robot. In the anime history, it's an absolute must, but in the US, there aren't that many Gundam titles that I would really recommend. The one thing that's really great about this series is the volumes are hardbound, so they may last a little longer in your library. I wasn't able to finish reading the series because Gundam is just not one of my things. And this is really classic manga. So if you're building a classic collection, I would consider it a must purchase. If you're building a popular collection, you might want to skip the Mobile Suit Gundam. But if you've got a following for the Gundam in your anime in your school, you might want that one. Death Note
Tina,
is, Yes.
I'm going to jump in at that point with a question.
Sure.
You've mentioned the hardbound copies. We have a question of how well did the paperback copies hold up, and how often do you have to replace them because of wear?
So that's a really great question, and the smaller paperbacks will hold up just as well as your other paperbacks do. The binding on manga is pretty typical. So just like any other paperback is about the level that they hold up, and you're not going to find, like, hardback almost never ever happens. Like Mobile Suit Gundam is probably one of the very few I've ever seen in hardback. So, but at the same time, unlike the thing with manga is that they are black and white drawings with just occasional color. They don't have those heavy glossy pictures that some of your graphic novels have. So your manga is probably going to hold up better than those glossy, heavy paper of some of your American graphic novel books. So I hope that answers your question there. And I actually have, yes.
I'm so sorry, Tina. There's also a few answers in the chat for those who don't have the chat. Mariah said that hers hold up pretty well and they tape the spine with quality book tape. And then Paula said that they cover their paperbacks with Demco Vista foil. So it sounds like there's a few recommendations for kind of, what's what I'm looking for? Giving them a little extra help so that they circulate a bit better. The point was also made that they circulate very quickly. Mariah said they read them in an hour and bring them back. So they're not getting like the wear and tear of a paperback. And then the other point made was that they have to be replaced due to theft. That's the main reason they have to be replaced rather than condition.
Yeah, you can't buy used manga in Utah. There isn't a store that provides that service. And so would not be unusual to have theft as a major issue here. That's for sure. That's also one of the reasons why you could maybe stop stocking some of your older series, but I wouldn't just delete them and throw them in the trash. They are valuable. Like if you were to delete even an incomplete series of Bleach that's missing a few volumes, you could probably get $300 for it on eBay right now. So there's some resale value there. So back to Death Note, definitely a high school only title. It's a kind of a must-have, and they do have the black edition is the omnibus. And that is the one where you can murder someone just by writing their name in this demon's notebook. So there is a lot of murder there to horrific levels, but the suspense is absolutely killer in that one. Just a favorite of manga readers. Astra Lost in Space is kind of interesting. It is a manga, but it doesn't feel like a Japanese title. It actually feels more like an American title that's been written in a manga format. It is a science fiction. It's appropriate for 7th through 12th grade. And it has a great diversity of characters. So that would be a series you probably want to add to your school collection. If I were to add a 4th title to this shonen collection, I might add Assassination Classroom. It's also for grades 10 through 12. It's a science fiction comedy. They give all of the students weapons that only work on this one alien. So there's a lot of violence, but a lot of humor and comedy. So that would be the 4th title if I were to add one to this completed series slide. So any more questions about shonen manga, and then we'll switch over to shoujo. And shonen, of course, means written for teen boys, because manga comes out in episodic, one a month or one a week series. And then when they have somewhere between 4 and 6 chapters completed, that's when they get bound into a book format called a takoban, or a word close to that. That's what it looks like when you read it. All right, so if no more questions, we'll move on to Shoujo. So Shoujo classics that you probably should have in your library. First is Fruits Basket. It's, I do recommend the collector's edition. It's a bit of a larger size, but it's just beautiful. The books do last just as long as your normal manga. And if you do it that way, there's 12 volumes if you do the collector's edition. Fruits Basket has a new series. There's 3 volumes, and that is the end of that. The Fruits Basket, another series, is just the 3 volumes. Although the story kind of ends on a cliffhanger, the author says that she might finish it off, the story, in another series, but 3 volumes is complete for Fruits Basket. Another, I would consider this a must purchase if Fruits Basket is popular, if Shoujo is popular in your collection. Go ahead and get the 3 volumes of Fruits Basket, another. This is a collector edition that just finished just recently, Aria the Masterpiece. So when this series originally came out, it was split. It came out in 2004, Aria, and then it got split into the Aqua series. That's because they switched publishers midway through the series, but they have a lot of color images. Aria the Masterpiece is my 2021 must purchase suggestion. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. And although the recommendation is for 7 to 12, I would have no hesitation adding this to an elementary school library. There's nothing in there that is going to be inappropriate. Just maybe the words might be too hard. There's a lot of location language, Venezuela, words like that you're gonna find in that series. A classic, Ouran High School Host Club. It's complete in 18 volumes. This is a classic series. So that one's still considered kind of a must-have for Shoujo collections. If you don't have Ouran High School Host Club, maybe what you might want to do is add Bisco Hattori's new series instead, which is Behind the Scenes. It is 7 volumes. It would be more appropriate for a high school audience because the students are college students, but it would just be kind of an interest thing. I think high school students would like it better. And that's Behind the Scenes is her new series. But Ouran Host Club, still absolute classic for the shoujo genre.
Tina, going back to Fruits Basket, we have a question on what makes it 10th grade and up instead of also for middle school.
So Fruits Basket, the reason they have the recommendation there is because there is a lot of parental violence towards teens and towards children would be one of the reasons, theme-wise. Images, there's not really any nudity in that one. And so middle school, actually, you probably could carry Fruits Basket, but there's a lot of psychological distress in that one. So, you know, she, for example, is living in a tent on the outskirts of the city because she doesn't have any family when the book opens, is one of those kind of situations. They show some of the characters are going to be locked up for life by their families for tradition reasons rather than any specific anything like that. So yeah, you probably could have Fruits Basket in a middle school. Well, maybe not middle school, but definitely a junior high. Yeah, I would be okay with putting it in my middle school library if I was a middle school librarian, but I would want to be aware of what was in it. I would make sure I had read it first so that I'm ready to respond to reprisals, is what I would do in that situation personally. Waiting for Spring is a shoujo sports manga. They play a lot of basketball. Really fun series. It's finishing up just this year with volume 14. Anonymous Noise. This one is a teen band, and they are gaining popularity. They're playing concerts and things like that. But they're at school. People don't know that they're famous because they wear masks when they're performing. And it is complete in volume 18. And then Demon Prince of Momochi House is a supernatural shoujo manga. It is complete in volume 16. So these are your recently completed novels. I would probably pick at least one of these. If I had the money, I'd put all 3 in my library, but pick at least one. They're all gonna be for the same audience, those shoujo lovers. Like I said, they all have characters that are really relatable. There's a romance element in all of them, but also those subgenres that I was talking about, the sports, the music, the supernatural. So pick at least one to have in your library. These are the series that I shared last time I did this presentation for 2018. So Kimi ni Todoke was the one I shared in 2018. It ends at volume 30. Nisekoi False Love. This one's a simple love story. Nisekoi False Love is a harem manga. Lots of comedy. All of your slapstick traditional, like when you see a pretty girl, you get a bloody nose. Like if you fall and trip, you're going to land on the girl in some inappropriate way. All of that is there in a very humorous way. And that one ends in volume 25. And this was my must-have purchase for shoujo 3 years ago, My Love Story, complete in 13 volumes. What I love about this series is the main character is this ugly guy right here. So you don't have that B-show, you know, pretty boy as the main character. So a really sweet love story on that one. Series that are currently continuing right now that are very popular. Horimiya is currently at volume 14. That one's a fun one. It's kind of slice of life. It's your typical classroom shoujo manga. Yona of the Dawn is a fantasy shoujo, and it's gaining a lot of popularity right now. A read-alike, if you already have Yona of the Dawn, is Snow White with the red hair. And then I might consider this one a must purchase definitely for junior high. High schoolers will love it too. And I would put this one in an elementary school library. Witch Hat Atelier is a fantasy story about 4 girls who are, you know, probably somewhere in the 4th through 6th grade range. They're in a fantasy world and they are apprenticed to a wizard. These are some of my most recent favorites, and I get to throw this in just because I'm the presenter. So Love and Focus is a 3-volume series. It's got your shoujo love triangle. What I love about this series is that the characters make some pretty realistic choices about what they're going to do with their relationships and going forward. And I love that it's complete in 3 volumes. I love those little short series. My current favorite, just because I'm a librarian, is Magus of the Library. This is a fantasy series, absolutely rich illustrations. It's currently a volume 4. If you have, this is your series for your people who call themselves readers. If they call themselves readers, if they dream of being a librarian when they grow up, I love Magus of the Library. Animeta is a new series. Animeta is not on your book list that I've shared because it's too new. It's not available in Novelist yet. And it is, the main character is an 18-year-old who has just graduated high school and she wants to be an animator. So she takes the task to go to work for an animation studio at their entry level. She fails the test miserably, but circumstances intervene and she gets hired. And so it goes through, if you have students who dream about entering the anime or the manga universe as a career, I would say get Animeta. It doesn't have a grade level, but it's all about work. So at least up through volume 4, I haven't read beyond that. It's safe to put this in elementary library, but it's going to be of interest to those teenagers who are looking at career choices right now. And we actually are putting the Animeta series in our adult collection. I'm not quite sure why. Going forward for future volumes, I'm going to keep my eye on that and see if things change content-wise from what I'm expecting.
So Tina,
yes,
we have a couple questions in the chat about grade level.
Yes.
So the first question is, when you say 7 to 12, do they come as 13 plus or as teen? And I noticed for junior high that if I don't keep it 13 plus, they will have some nudity pictures. So can you speak to that?
So each publisher has their own rating system. My personal view of that rating system is I always guess that it's a little bit more. So if it says teen, I think this might end up in my personal rating scale as older teen. If this says 13 plus, like you said, you're usually pretty safe. It depends on the publisher. Viz Manga, I kind of agree with their rating system. Some of the others like Kodansha, I always get there. I know that they are a little more liberal than I am. And so I always give a little leeway on that one. The other thing is sometimes I'll look at a series and I look at the rating on the back and I'm like, why did they make this older teen? This book would easily get put in a middle school. And then I remember that they are basing this decision off of which magazine it got published in Japan. And they have a specific audience for those manga magazines that they publish. And if they're guessing that because of who their audience is, that their editors are going to push that manga author to go a specific direction. And so with some of these series, you can get all the way up to like volume 5, and it's completely appropriate for a junior high library. And then you get to volume 6 and you've got a surprise there. And so at that point, you have to make a decision. Am I going to just not carry this series, or am I going to let volumes 1 through 5 continue to circulate until they die? So that's one of the things with the manga, because of the way they're published, how they come out in episodic volumes like that. Sometimes you have to make specific decisions based on like volume, and your decision might change when you get to volume 5 or volume 6.
So Tina, we have a reminder that we're running short on time.
Yes.
There's 2 other questions that maybe you can answer quickly.
Yes.
One question is, the manga say 7th and up. What about middle schools that have 6th and up? Are you pushing it, or would they be okay? And then the other question that you may or may not have time for today, because I know you still have some slides to get through, is that you're obviously focusing on high school and middle school right now, but do you have any suggestions for elementary libraries for manga they should add to their collections? And that maybe you need to take that question offline and maybe you can answer it quickly.
Okay. So I would go with the publisher. Like, look at the publisher's rating. Sixth grade is kind of a question. I think it would depend on kind of the maturity of the students you're seeing in your library. It really would. So I don't think there's going to be an easy answer for that one. Let's move on since we're short on time. I'd be glad to have that conversation with you offline. My contact information is available. And I haven't traveled very far, but I have gone to some of the local libraries, and I've actually visited your school library, and we've talked about some of the series that were in your collection. So I have made some personal visits if anyone wants to convince me to travel to your location. Elementary schools, here's your question. Must-have series. You must have the Legend of Zelda series. This is not the Twilight Princess. This is a series that's sometimes they've been broken up in weird ways. But here's your list of the 10 volumes in the Legend of, this is a must-have for 4th through 6th grade. For Pokemon, for elementary schools, just pick one of the colors and go with it. Let your kids vote on which series you're gonna start with, or just pick the newest one or one that's been recently completed. Information for both of those series, The Legend of Zelda and the Pokemon, are available in the Viz Media Catalog. And they have, once a year, they have a catalog that they release just for libraries. I have a direct link to that catalog for the 2020 volume on the slide, and Nissa will add that to the chat. Or if you are one of those pre-readers, Edelweiss has that, and you can look at the Edelweiss catalogs by clicking on the Browse with Limited Access without creating an account. So that is where you'll find the current volumes, current series available for Pokemon, and they have a series of The Legend of Zelda. More shoujo for the manga collection, Disney Descendants. Tokyo Pop's been doing a lot of media tie-in titles. Himo Uto Umaru-chan is recommended for grades 6 through 9. You could put that in elementary school. Some of the characters have overdeveloped features, but that's all it is. There's no nudity or anything like that. And this main character here, you see her in her adult version. When she gets home, she turns into this shut-in with this cute little cap. And so there's some real comedy there that the younger kids are gonna love. And then this is kind of a more didactic title, Yuzu the Pet Vet. There's a lot of like learning that they're trying to push about how to take care of your pets, how to be a good pet owner, but they put it into a story format. So grades 4 through 6, a new series that's ongoing, Yuzu the Pet Vet. They're up to volume 4 right now. And I think all 3 of these are ongoing series at the moment. Boys Love or Yuri, Blue Flag is on the YALSA top 10 graphic novel list. Right now they're at volume 5. My Brother's Husband is appropriate because it's all focused on family relationships rather than the romantic relationship. So it's appropriate for younger readers. It's complete in 2 volumes. Our Dreams at Dusk is a recommended title. I haven't read that one yet. So I only added it because it's recommended, and they had a lower grade level than I've seen for other Yuri titles. So Blue Flag is yaoi or boys love. The thing with, I'll hurry real quick here. The thing with boys love or Yuri titles is it used to be written not for the LGBTQ community, but for your shoujo lover, and they wanted both characters, wanted their readers to fall in with both characters, so they started writing boys love so that you could fall in love with both of the characters. So when you're looking for these titles, look for the word authentic in the reviews that you're looking at. If you're looking for LGBTQ titles, older BL, older Yuri titles are not going to be authentic to that experience. They're just fun reads that are more like a shoujo title. And here are the ones that I recommended last year. Here's the ones from this year. That blue sky feeling, volumes 1 and 2 would be appropriate for middle school. Volume 3 goes some weird places. One of the characters has an older boyfriend who's 26, and they never explicitly say anything, but you start going, really? I'm not sure about that. Horror, The Promised Neverland is a must-have title. It is for high school only.
And Tina, we are at time.
Fine. Okay.
So I don't know if there's like one last thing you want to say,
Okay.
or.
Thank you. Isekai is the new trend right now. This one's a fantasy battle series. This one's a harem manga. Isekai is really popular in anime, but the manga, it's trying to catch up. And so there is a good link for you on the school library journal for adding isekai to your library. You can't add don't add Sword Art Online for isekai, because the manga, you're better off with the light novels. Your students aren't going to like the manga because they didn't catch up fast enough. They tried to rush it. Here are some good places for reviews. I always get asked that question. noflyingnotights.com, graphiclibrary.org. Both of those are written by librarians and teachers. I like Manga Bookshelf when I can't find the title anywhere else. These are not professional reviews, but they'll give you a lot of idea of what's the content of the manga. Do join the YALSA, or do look at the Great Graphic Novels lists on YALSA. They have started adding manga. And Diamond Bookshelf is a distributor. They have, just like Viz gave us a catalog, they also have a manga catalog available there. So that's where I will end. Thank you so much for being here. And I always love to do manga presentations. So if you want to hear more, just contact me.
Thank you so much, Tina. That was fabulous. So much information. We wish we could do this for like 3 hours and just ask you questions, because it is so popular with all of our students. So we really appreciate that. And a reminder that the handout that she created and all of these slides are available on Sketch, just on the page where you got the link to this viewing. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll just have you go to your break so you can get ready for your next session.